Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back. This is the JR Wisdom channel. Once again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And today I'm going to be discussing a topic in reference to an interview that Nick Cannon did with Vlad TV. And it's a red pill topic in general. And it was a flashback that just posted. And you can find a link in the description to check this out after this video. But he basically talks about relationships, marriage, his marriage with Mariah Carey, and basically was talking about his red pill awakening throughout this process. And it's not uncommon for a lot of you gentlemen out there and a lot of you who may want to get married or have been married or have gone through divorce and things like that to experience this. But the reason why I chose to talk about this topic is because Nick Cannon got married in his early 30s. He had already been in Hollywood, been a successful multi-millionaire, already sold his oats and all these great things, but he still decided to settle down at this point. Who he settled down to is settled down with is very important as well, but it doesn't change the overall theme of what he was communicating in the interview that he did. And that's what I wanted to talk about. So basically, if you don't know, Nick Cannon he was married to Mariah Carey. I don't even think I need to explain who Mariah Carey is to you guys. If you don't know Nick Cannon, I may need to. Nick Cannon, he's still a media personality. He's a musician. He's an actor. Wears all types of hats. You'll see him on TV at any given time, or used to at least. But he's still a successful guy overall. So the thing that is great about this, and that I believe it will paint a picture for a lot of people, is the fact that is perceived, or should be perceived, as a high value man, and Mariah Carey is perceived as a high value woman. These are two high value people coming together, getting married, forming a bond in a relationship, and it didn't work out. And what's interesting, what I like about what Nick was saying in the interview, was that he didn't say it in those words, but he alluded to it to try and kind of sugarcoat his response when asked why did him and Mariah get divorced, or why it didn't work out. So he basically said, in a nutshell, was that he entered Mariah's world. Mariah didn't enter his world, because Mariah is such a pop icon at this point. So she wasn't conforming to his rules. She's a high value woman, which is understandable. But he's the husband, he's the leader, supposedly the leader of the house, but she's the matriarch at this point of the relationship that they had with the children. And he couldn't see himself being her toy, or not being the leader, or not leading the family as a man, because she wasn't having it that way. You know, Mariah Carey's been married before. I don't know if she's been married twice. I know she's been married before. And Nick's never been married. So she was going to run things her way, because her feeling that she's a high value woman, she's not going to basically have him spearhead the family. And I guess he wasn't cool with that. And that's where the ego situation came in. Two egos. She wanted to wear the pants in the relationship. Not to say that you can't be equal, but as a man, him being the man, the husband, he wanted to lead the family. And it just seems, the way he described it, that she wasn't going for that. So obviously the marriage ended up dissolving. And he says some interesting things that I found as someone who's been married previously, about him moving on, even while they were still married, because she actually got engaged to a billionaire. And he ended up getting pregnant, or between him and it's not even his girlfriend. I like the way he said that when he was asked, how did Mariah feel about you getting another woman pregnant or whatever? And he said, she was engaged. What can she trip about? So he was like, how's your relationship with your baby mama? He's like, we were never in a relationship, right? And I think that's, to me, I can respect that at this point, for a man who basically has lived his life, got married, figured out it didn't work for him. Marriage, and he goes into detail, which I'm going to talk about also, and this is why I agree with his thoughts. But he meets a woman and they just so happen to have a child together, and he's not considering it a relationship because his definition of a relationship, just like mine, and this is along the red pill mind frame that I'm on, as well as what he's talking about, a lot of stuff in this interview you'll see he's talking about it, is that in order to be in a relationship, it doesn't necessarily have to be equally yoked, if you will, but you can't be reaching down to pull someone else up. You can't be reaching down to constantly help someone up. I could see doing it maybe once, but if you're constantly at a place where you're here and the person's here and you're constantly reaching down, trying to pull them up, it's going to be an issue and it becomes tiresome and it's not going to work. So it's kind of like what I explained in my other video, as far as a high value man dealing with a quote unquote lower value woman for the purposes of sex. Not to say that they wouldn't have a bond, but there's nothing really that she could do for him. And this is how he was saying, other than sex. There's nothing she can do at this point to improve him, to, if he was to lose it all, to help him out at this point. So he was like, I'm at a these were his words. He's like, I'm at a disadvantage if I put myself in a position where if I consider myself in a relationship with this person, it's not realistic, because I'm placing myself in a position where they're going to need my help. Same thing for a lot of you guys. You could be constantly paying a woman's bills. You could be constantly trying to make sure that she's financially stable, and she's not necessarily going to do the same thing for you. And this is where a lot of guys get hurt in family court and, child support and things like that, because they're having to do that. Not to say you shouldn't take care of your child, but there's no reciprocation. There's no reciprocity in the process. It's just you spending, you giving this, and there's nothing in return. And I know a lot of, especially women who are watching this, are going to disagree with this, but it's just the nature of it. And the way he said it, he had to go through these trials where he was talking about with the divorce and how he likened it. Let me read what he said. He said it's the dumbest, disrespectful, dark, and demonic thing you can go through. And he's absolutely right as far as that. It is one of the dumbest things, because you get attorneys involved. They're going to try and keep it going for as long as they can. Most of the time, unless you have a man who's not centered, most of the times you're going to have a woman who they're going to take advantage of her emotions and play off of that to try and make it go further than what it should. There's always, usually for the most part, going to be someone that's going to want to stay married or want to stay in the relationship, or going to be butthurt and not want to move on. So attorneys are good at that. It's their job to milk it and get as much money out of a divorce. So this is something that a lot of times you're two adults that got into it that you should be able to get out of. But this is how he described it in terms of that. And he even said, I'll never do that again. So for those of you who are like, yeah, you're just saying that, because I've said that on my videos a few times. I'll never do that again. It makes no sense to do that again. It's too much foolishness that goes on to have a contract in place just to say that you're married, when, like Nick was saying, that you can express your feelings and describe how you feel without having a piece of paper signed and stamped by the courts that originated from someone, 200-300 years ago. It just doesn't make sense. So listening to his interview overall, it was like he had to go through that process. Even though he lived that bachelor lifestyle for so many years, he had to go through that process to realize that it wasn't for him per se. It can be for someone. And he even went as far as saying, which I think it is too, for those who do stay married and happy and things like that, He said it has to be divinely inspired. It has to be by God, because when two people come together, you know, he quoted the Bible. He was like, when two people come together, they are exalted as one. I agree with that. In order for a marriage to like really work and for people to be happy, I think it has to be divinely inspired for those two to come together and be able to make that happen. So that's my opinion. So he basically hit it on the head. Those are my, just listening to him speak, he was speaking my feelings, and I know he was speaking from a red pill perspective in terms of what this marriage thing is, what relationships are at the end of the day. If you don't complement each other in that aspect, as far as building each other up, marriage being a business at the end of the day. And just like relationships, I agree the same thing. Relationships are a business as well. In my opinion, I feel that way. Marriage is a business. A relationship is a business. I've done videos on that as well, about it being a business. And unless you understand that you both have to complement each other to work together to form this family, this business, this empire, instead of just looking at each other, what are you going to do? I don't know. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I don't know. What are you going to do? And you guys are just like confused, the blind leading the blind. So I encourage you guys to check it out. Those are my thoughts on it. Those are my thoughts on marriage, relationships, being equally yoked, you know, everyone growing as a unit, being successful and things like that. So let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts on that. Let me hear them below. Let me hear what you guys and your experiences on that and what you have to say. And if you feel like this video has been of help or been of any benefit, please feel free to give it a thumbs up if you don't mind. It helps to promote the video as well. I invite you to subscribe to my channel if this is your first time checking it out. And subscribe to my other channels. The links are in the description. And I'll have some videos popping up here shortly that you guys can check out to find out more information on this topic and other topics that I cover on my channel. If you are seeking any advice or have any topics you'd like me to discuss, please feel free to email me. The link is in the description as well. And with that being said, check out these videos here. Peace be upon you and the mercy and blessings of the Almighty. And I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm out of here. Peace.